Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt, the moderator, DeAndre, here with Bill Goldberg. How you doing,
Don't worry,
Bill?
I'm not delivering cows today.
Not delivering cows today. I saw that post online, and I don't know if if you woke up that morning going, I should grab my. You have the like Meta glasses, and and Wanda's like, you got to come help deliver a cow, pull it right out.
I don't have to explain my wife to you by any stretch. Every single day, it could be anything. We had a sloth here the other day for
I
24
saw that. She's so
hours.
excited about that.
Unbelievable, man. So there's a huge backstory, but this isn't the time or place. But the cow that gave birth last year at this time had a stillbirth, right?
Yeah.
And that's the cow that Wanda bought me years ago. And people say that animals don't have feelings. That's BS because I saw what she went through when she lost this baby. Fast
Yeah.
forward to 4 days ago, Wanda had her locked up for like 3 weeks because she thought she was going to have the baby like that night, right? So um, it was time. So fortunately, we had all the vets around.
Yeah.
Man, you know me, dude. I mean, I'm Goldberg, but that's not my chosen, after breakfast freaking deal to
Right.
do is pull a cow out of another one. But I would do anything for that animal. So I threw caution to the wind and it was like restoring my first carburetor. I just jumped in, man.
Yeah.
So, uh, anyway, there you go. Yeah, it's very eventful over here. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So,
Cars.
cars, we're welcoming to the show Tom Maxwell from Velocity Restorations. Tom, a little backstory there. Bill's on the ranch. His wife runs this amazing nonprofit of helping injured animals, endangered species. So there are a number of animals that live on the property, and then there are a number that come because they're in need of something or need some rehabilitation or a giraffe with a broken leg. Like
Zoos literally reach out to my wife for care for these little
yeah.
animals. You
Uh,
never know what it's going to be.
and she takes care of them basically 24/7 and then has a a team of like vets and stuff that come and help out for certain situations and stuff. So you never know what you're going to get when it comes to the Goldberg property. There's you could go to the Instagram and see. Maybe we'll just skip it for today, the video.
Okay, definitely.
But yeah,
Needless to
that's
say, there's no we live on 200 acres and there's no barrier between my 15,000 square foot garage that I covet so closely and the 200 animals that are roam on the property. So
yeah.
it could be anything at any time.
Yeah,
So
we don't have cows down here in Florida. We do have my office is built over a large pond that's like it's on stilts. So we do have the occasional alligator. We had one a couple years ago that roamed around. Then of course we get all sorts. We've got a big snapping turtle down there too at the moment that likes
Yeah.
to pop his head out. But yeah, no cows here on the property right
Yeah.
now.
And of course
where
we
in
can
Florida are you guys located?
We're based in Pensacola, so we're on the Panhandle. Yeah.
Yeah, we can tell by your
Makes sense.
accent you're from Pensacola.
Yeah,
Exactly.
clearly, yeah.
I used to live in Florida as well, down in South Florida. And yes, you would get the occasional alligator like going through the backyard, just like trying to get to the next, you know, whatever, just sort of swampy little destination. And
You're a throwaway.
yeah, it's interesting to see, a little nerve-wracking to see. And when you're a kid, you're 12, 15 years old, and you're like, oh my gosh. Uh, so Velocity Restorations is a company we've been following for a while now. We're seeing there's a handful of companies that are out there that are going, you know what, we can do a really good restoration of a vehicle, or for lack of a better term, a rest a mod. We can take your classic vehicle and modernize it. And we've seen hot rod builders, some amazing builders, just do this time and time again. We just came back from Grand National Roadster Show, and just some of the stuff you see there is amazing. But now we're, the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, we're seeing these amazing companies pop up and turn it into a turnkey operation. an assembly line of classic vehicles being restored, modernized, uh, late model features, and offering them up for sale. I'm sure there's some options like any car. You could probably, I don't know if there's more than one engine option, depends on who it is, paint, stuff like that, transmission, I don't know if manual, automatic. But I would imagine having that process in place allows you to, in theory, make it more affordable, right? Because you're mass producing more parts or ordering more parts, but also figuring out all the little bugs and reliability issues. And that was one of the things, like you can go and spend $1 million these days on a really amazing hand-built car, but along with that comes with hand-built problems,
Right.
reliability issues. And for the people buying those cars, that's sort of the cost of doing business. It goes back to the builder a few times. It gets refined a few times, but it's also been winning the Grade Eight. It's winning Riddler Awards. It's winning America's Most Beautiful Roadster, and it's more of the art
Part of the
piece.
process that people accept.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just turns into this really amazing piece of art that sure you can enjoy it in many ways and occasionally drive it, but it's not necessarily built for that. Not certainly to the scale and to the abuse that we give our cars. So to have that modern classic and actually be able to drive it, that's where companies like Velocity have come into play. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the company started really much closer to what you were describing earlier on. So it did start, and up until about 4 years ago, just after I got here, we had a whole side of our shop dedicated to, like more one-off custom builds. So we had, there was all sorts of different models over there, Jeeps and FJs and all sorts of stuff that we don't currently produce. But then we made the move to offering kind of more of a repeatable product. Yeah.
So let's take a look a little bit about the lineup, and then we can go through the process. So one of the things here is this isn't just sort of a one-trick pony. It's not like you just do Broncos or you just do Mustangs. And there are some great shops that do that kind of stuff. And now we're seeing like Land Rovers and Land Cruisers and shops that specialize in that kind of thing. But what stands out with Velocity is the the sheer size and volume of what you guys do. Like this has grown into something that's very, very huge. This isn't, we do, 10 cars a year or 15 cars a year. This is significant. And the lineup of vehicles reflects that, right? We've got a number of trucks and some Mustangs, Fords, Chevy, but why don't you tell us a little bit about that while we just kind of load up the website
Sure.
here?
Yeah, so the core product offering and the way the company started was first generation Broncos. So we've built now over 650 full resto mod or rebuilt Broncos. That's kind of the company's bread and butter. But then yeah, again about 3 years ago we started to launch into different models. So the first model that we did was the bump side F250 single cab long bed, and then thereafter started messing around with like a lowered rear wheel drive, what we call F100 truck, so a street truck. Then about a year after that, we started playing with Chevy products. So we now offer the first one was a K5, but then C10, K10, and various generations of the K10, including a couple of square body variants now as well. And then Mustangs, so cars. And then the most recent thing that we're really excited about is the Fox body Mustang that we unveiled this year with the guys at Roadster Shop at SEMA and had that all going on. So yeah, there's a whole heap of products, yeah, that we offer.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the process of going into it. How does the life cycle work? Customers reach out to you guys, and then where does it go? Well, they reach out to you. You're in charge of that.
Yeah, I have it. We have a team here. We have regional sales directors and we have a sales team. But yeah, so we typically in this industry, like you guys know, what normally happens is somebody will come either with an idea, like a very like specific idea, or most of the time they'll have their own vehicle. So they'll want to bring their project car and have it finished or built out. That's very atypical for us. That's not normally what happens. So we buy and own all of the donor vehicles ahead of time. So we've got a boneyard, 400 meters away from me, but the back of our facility that just has hundreds of donor cars. So we're always scouting and buying donor vehicles. Most of the time, customers don't have that base vehicle already. And then instead of people, entering into a year or 2 year process, we build the vehicles on a repeated kind of assembly line style setup. So the shortest window of time is a Bronco. We build a Bronco from conception in 14 weeks. Actually, it takes us 7 weeks to fully assemble the vehicle. The back half of that process is actually like QA and testing. But then the lead time varies a little bit model for model. Occasionally we'll have somebody come in and say, hey, I've got this, Gen 1 Bronco or something that I grew up with that was my uncle's or it was my dad's and I've inherited it and I really want to make sure I use that base vehicle because it's got a nostalgic factor to me. And then, then we will use it. But 9 times out of 10 people don't have the base vehicle. And then a lot of people will buy. So we have a showroom here too. We have dealers around the country that have our vehicles on lot. And then we also have our own showroom here. So a lot of people also just buy complete vehicles. They'll, walk in somewhere or see something on the website and say, hey, I love the blue one or the pink one. Valentine's Day is coming up, so we always sell a couple pink Broncos around Valentine's Day, and they'll buy them off the lot.
Okay. So having these cars, it's interesting because yes, there is a process now where you can go, hey, I don't want to necessarily go to the auction. I'm not familiar with that format, and submitting to be a bidder and all of that stuff, or wait around for something that I'm looking for specifically to pop up on like bring a trailer or whatever. Uh, these are vehicles that you guys have essentially in stock at your location or dealers. Do you guys put together the package for it? Like, is there warranties involved? Do you offer financing for it? Because we're looking at just sort of the inventory right now. These are the completed vehicles that are available now, right? We're seeing a bunch of
That's right.
Broncos, Ford trucks.
Yep. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can filter on the left hand side between all the models, and some stuff we don't have in stock. So like a Scout 2, our Scouts are really popular, and very rarely do I have the opportunity to keep one of those in stock because a lot of the build slots that we have every year get sold ahead of time.
Okay.
But yeah, everything that you see on the website is for sale. All Velocity vehicles come with a 2 year bumper to bumper warranty. That's through us. It's not through a third party, so we handle that. And then yeah, they can be financed. We've got a couple of different finance partners as well. So for the consumer, for the buyer, it's much more like I say normal, right? We're still talking about a $250,000 60s, 70s vehicle, right? None of that is normal,
Yeah.
right? But it's a more normal buying process compared to, the kind of other side of this industry, which is you place a deposit, you wait 2 or 3 years, it takes time, and yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's cool. Good lineup. I'm gonna click through on some of these. We're looking at this K5 Blazer. So starting a vehicle like this, and we can click over to the pages that show the manufacturing process as well. Like I said, this is turnkey. You can buy this one. This one is about 300 grand
Yep.
engine swap. Is there different sort of levels of vehicle? Because I saw like, I don't know, signature series or heritage series. Like, what are the different
Yeah, so
versions?
again, much like if you were going to go and look at buying a Ford truck, there's a Platinum and there's a King Ranch and things like that. There are some levels to or trim levels to what we offer. So Signature Series is our kind of base package. And I don't like using that phrase because our base is really a lot of people's premium. Like we often get asked like why are our trucks so expensive? Because we are more expensive than quite a lot of the other builders out there. And the truth is that our entry level is already like really loaded. So that's our signature series. If it's a Ford product, it'll come with a Gen 4 Coyote. If it's a Chevy product or a Scout, it'll come with an LT1. Both of them are new; they're not reused, our crash damage vehicles or anything like that. All new crate engine. Same with the transmissions. Most of the vehicles, unless the customer specifically asks or requests us to use the original chassis for titling reasons or registration reasons, have all new Rosa Shop chassis underneath them. system. They all have disc brakes. They all have focal speaker systems. If they're 4x4 truck, they have power steps. They've got power windows, XYZ AC. That all comes as standard. So our signature series is everything that you need to enjoy the vehicle, and drive it every day. Then when you go higher, there's a street series for the two-wheel drive vehicles, right? So Mustangs, F100, C10s, just because they're more designed to be a bit more aggressive when you want a bit of an upgrade. And then there's Heritage for the four-wheel drive options. The Heritage adds like two-tone paint and different levels of trim. Interior on both of those options is very different. Start getting into our custom interiors and things like that. And then last year we launched our highest level, which is called our Founder Series. We only build about 10 of those vehicles a year. There's no information on those on the website. They are invite only. But basically, that came from, it's just the irony of this thing was like, we were building these custom cars and going up against the problems that every custom car builder faces, which is like every build's different, parts are different. It's never consistent. So canceled that. But then, of course, we've built so many cars now that we always have, at least 5 or 6 times a year, a customer will come back and say, hey, like, I love my Bronco or I love my Mustang. Can we do something like even more custom or different? And so that's why we launched the Founder Series. Founder Series is like the highest level. It's where we can kind of go a little bit off menu, start doing different paint patterns and different components. And the customer basically works directly with the founder of our company, Stuart, and the executive team here to basically craft a complete one-of-one vehicle. And then they benefit from, even greater technical offerings. So you can start getting into LT4 for a transmission, for an engine. They all come with rotor shop independent front suspension chassis, the Legends platform, things like that. So that's like the absolute pinnacle of what we do. But most people are going to be buying that Signature Series product. Yeah, that core lineup.
How do you guys handle like registration and emissions? Because now we're offering a turnkey package and it can be shipped anywhere around the country. I'm sure around the world, but for the sake of emissions around the country.
Yeah, so emissions don't really apply to us too much. There is a little bit of nuance in some of the later model vehicles, and especially the Fox body that we just announced. When you get into like that late 80s, 90s era, there's a couple more boxes we have to check. But basically, because we're always starting with a donor vehicle, we're not building kit cars. That's often a question people ask is this vehicle going to retain its original VIN? The answer is yes, because we're going out and buying donor vehicles. So when you come to register the vehicle, it will still be registered in the case of a Gen 1 Bronco as a 66 to 77 Bronco. And the key part of that is just documenting the process, making sure you've got the donor vehicle and then really clearly documenting the process that you're going through. So our vehicles have, if you came to the facility, you'd see every vehicle has a hanging camera around it. And as the vehicle goes through the process, for every step of that camera on the memory card and that camera gets filled up with the text taking pictures of everything they do. So we've got real clear documentation of that. So when it comes to the customer, they get this finished vehicle, but from us, we're a Florida dealer as well, so we have a dealer's license. But they just get a full packet of everything they need to go to their local DMV and register the vehicle. Now, California, and there's a couple other states which obviously make it a little bit trickier with smog and things like that. In a case of a Bronco, if it's pre-75, it doesn't have to be concerned about smog. So when we know that we're selling a vehicle, we're building a vehicle for somebody in California, there's that consideration. Some states are a little bit more particular around, VIN placement. So sometimes we do have to use the original chassis versus using a rotor shop chassis. But we're pretty clued up on, again, we've built a lot of these vehicles, we build a lot every year. So we're pretty clued up on like, based on where the customer is and where they intend to register the vehicle, those steps that they need to go through.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially if you're trying to get these vehicles in the hands of fans of the vehicles, not necessarily builders or we work on cars and we're car fans, and some of us have many cars in the garage, familiar with a lot of what's out there. But like I don't know, just to go, hey, a buddy of mine moved to Wyoming. He loves cars, never really owned a bunch, would like to get something like this, has the money to do it. He's gonna he wouldn't even know necessarily, or she wouldn't know necessarily what questions to ask. And
Right.
that's the big thing. You go, where are you located? I'm in Wyoming, or I'm in California, and I want a Bronco. And then you guys would need to hopefully be able to, now with the experience you have, go, great. If you're going to keep the vehicle there and that's where you're going to register it, the Bronco we're going to build for you. We're going to go to our yard. We're going to find the donor vehicle and we're going to make sure it's like a 70 or whatever, 75
Right.
donor vehicle for your Bronco. That'll help you in the registration process. To you, the customer, you're not really going to notice much of the difference. You're going to get a delivered vehicle that is good to go. It's more of a paperwork issue than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, listen, I think there's a lot of kind of this idea that this process or this sort of a product is a bit of like a gray market product, or it's not clear. The truth is it actually is really clear, like how to register these types of vehicles in every state. The problem is you've just got to go and dig for it, and you've got to be willing to, go in and understand it. And then the other thing is they change things, right? So that some states, there'll be a rule that's been in place for 25 years, and then suddenly for some reason they'll decide that they change something. It's about staying on top of that and knowing. But yeah, in the case of your friend, and that's a lot of our customers, for a lot of our customers, they've never owned a classic vehicle before because they've had concerns around the other, side of this thing and the problems with just maintaining an original classic vehicle. They don't know. So we help guide them through that process, and it's pretty nuanced. It's the same as with the regional sales guys I was talking about. Those guys are actually in region. So if you call up here and say your friend's in Arizona, they won't get the same regional guy as somebody that's going to register their vehicle in Florida because the process is different, and we want to be able to support those customers close to them in that region.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it
One
makes
stop
sense.
shop.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, for
a
sure.
little bit like that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a big part of it is like like I said, there's lots of great builders out there, but if you can't handle that customer acquisition part of it and then the fulfillment and the sort of the post-sale portion of it, like that's the flaw in the system. It's like think about how many products out there. Like so many people can come up with a really good product. You're Steve Jobs, you come up with a really good phone product, but it's not really about that. It's like, how are we selling that phone? How are we supporting that phone? What is the after sale support on that phone? Just like, what's
Well,
the
and
warranty
it's
on the
a
phone?
completely different uh it's a different niche that you're going after, right? As big as we believe the car world is, we also realize how small it is at times, right? So customer service and uh, the fact that you can support them the entire way is everything, especially these days when people want ease, right?
Yeah.
If everything's already done for them and all you have to do is inform them of the information and point them in the right direction, that's fantastic. That's called options. So it's wonderful that as an automotive enthusiast, like Matt and I are sitting here, it's wonderful to have these options now, and they're viable
Right.
options. They're not options that don't have R&D behind them. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely a customer, right, that we don't serve, and that's okay too. So we get plenty of people that will. I had one the other day. A guy wanted to build a crazy, wanted to do a crazy F100 build, tub the thing out, slam it to the floor, make loads of custom stuff on it. And the guy 100% had the money, basically saying to us, "Hey, like, do this. I don't care what it cost." And we it's difficult because these are projects always really cool, right? But we have to almost say like no, because that's not what we do. But here's
because
the
you
handful
can't
of other people,
streamline it,
right? But here's the handful of other
right?
people we know that can do that work. It's just a
Yeah.
different process, completely different process.
It is.
Absolutely.
And I for what we've been doing on this show for years and years and years, obviously we know and we respect the process. We both have done it going, we're going to commission a build and we're going to participate in the build, but we're going to sit down and go, well, what we mean by that is like, we know what engine we want. We know we'll sit down with the guys from Tremec and go and listen, what's the latest and greatest? Are we doing a 5-speed or doing a 6-speed? Are we doing a DCT, or what are you doing for transaxle? And then this is the suspension I want. I want adjustability on the suspension, and like I want to, all of those things. That's commissioning a build, right? And being a part of that process. But there are a lot of customers out there when commission a build. To them, that means what color, what interior, automatic or manual,
Check the boxes.
right? And
Yeah.
and and that's about it. Commissioning a build is like ordering a new car and taking classic vehicles and making the process as easy as ordering the new car, right?
Right.
Like you can go
Yeah.
to the dealer lot essentially, or in this case, you can even just go to the inventory page on your website, scroll through and find the turnkey one and go, that looks good. I'll take it.
Yeah, and if you don't find what you like, then we have a configurator for almost all the models as well, like a new OEM. So you can click and choose and then say, I want to build this. Again, there is we have it gets complicated. We do have another side to our business that still does some of that hyper custom work. So we also had a Chevelle at SEMA that we did in partnership with the guys at Dutch Boys,
Yeah.
and that we did the interior. We did a lot. They did all the fab and stuff. We did the interior, and it was our customer. But like people saw that car and then they were ringing me like, "Hey, when are you guys going to start doing Chevelles? I love that
Yeah,
thing."
you gotta be careful about
Yeah.
It's like
that.
and they're ringing and I'm like, "Listen, you can do it, but that's a $1.2 million car." If I don't know if you guys saw that car, but that,
Yeah.
that car
Yeah.
is literally perfect, right? Over 1,000 horsepower, twin. The thing's insane. The guys at Dutch Boys, this engine bay is just unbelievable. The fab on that car, but it took 3 years. Right. And back to Jorgen's point, it's a one of one car. It's going to come with one of one car things, right? And so not everybody, I think they like the idea of it, but then when they realize actually, A, it's a process, B, it's going to be a lot more expensive, and C, I might not have the same support at the end, that mentality shifts a little bit, certainly for our customer base.
Yeah. And you're right. The cars you guys are doing, they're not inexpensive. 250, 270, 300,000 plus. But
But
the
there's a market
jump
for that.
Yeah, but the jump in cost when you are going to something that's very custom and the engine is different, now you're looking at like, hey, we're doing great. Coyote engines, they're not inexpensive, but they're reliable. We can get them for Ford. They work well. But then the customer goes, I know, I understand, but I want Nelson Racing engines and I want 2,000 horsepower and I want you know, I want dual tanks so I can run race gas. And you're like, okay, but what you've just jumped from was, a $12,000 engine to a $60,000 engine, and then all of the necessary components to put that into the vehicle. Like you just doubled the cost of the vehicle, and it's not as easy to explain by going, I understand you want one of our Broncos, but you want it to have 750 horsepower. Like,
And you point them in a direction of a partner that you have
Yeah,
that then
yeah,
get that
get that
done.
done. Yeah,
right.
and
But
it's just
that's
different. Yeah.
that's no longer a $300,000 truck. It's a $600,000 truck,
And listen, the flip side of that statement is true, right? And I try and talk about this a lot as well. There's a whole heap of people, like I'm sure you guys have seen, or get, in what you do, but like when you have guests on or whatever, where there'll be comments and people will be like, "Hey, I can build that Bronco that you're charging $250,000 for 150 grand or less, 120 grand in my garage," right? And yeah, some people are like really extreme, and you just like, there's just no way you could ever do that. Like the parts cost, for some numbers that people throw out, the parts cost alone is double what they're saying they can build a truck for. But for sure, you could build a velocity level Bronco cheaper yourself in your garage, or with like a more local shop if they're not scaled like we are. But it's going to take a lot longer. You're not going to have a warranty, probably. You're not going to have the aftermarket support, and you also, unfortunately, this business is really hard, and people do go out of business, and you don't know if that person's going to be around forever. So like it's all of those things that come into consideration that I think sometimes people do see the prices of our core product, and maybe they do get sticker shock. But then when you explain, it's not just the product, it's the process, the customer experience, the handoff, the aftermarket and care support that we offer. All of that stuff come together. Plus, we're an American company. You want to make a little bit of money as well. That all adds up, right? And
yeah.
so it's a funny way. You either have to go one way or the other when you're explaining stuff.
Bill and I have both been down this route before when we're spending months and months or years on a project, and one little thing stalls the project almost indefinitely. It could be like, when I was building a Mustang for SEMA, it was like, it's good, it fires up, it moves under its own power, but we haven't dialed in the tune yet. Like just getting the tune, like it's got to go back to the dyno, it's got to sit 2 days over there, 3 days. They got to really, because it's all custom and it's twin turbo, and you're like, I just spent a year building this vehicle. Everything's done, paint, carbon fiber, engine, but now it's a brick in my garage because I couldn't finish
Everything's,
that
but
one little thing.
also at the same time, Matt, everything's relative, right? So this is a very wide, encompassing business with different people, different characteristics, different wants, different desires. the ability to have a car and work on it and be able to touch it, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
fun.
So there's so many people that fall under all of these different categories. As I said earlier, it's wonderful to be able to, hey, I love working on the Cobra. I've been doing it for a year, right? It's not done by any stretch of the imagination, but I really, if something comes up, it doesn't kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It empowers me right now. Not everybody's got the time to do that. A lot of people have a one car collection or desire a one car collection, and it's the car they wanted their entire lives. They have 2 minutes throughout the day that they could dedicate towards that. So they want to pay somebody to give them exactly what they want. It's wonderful to see that there is a company that can streamline that process and get it to you in a short period of time, as opposed to spending twice that and getting it, 2 years later. That's
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And we have I mean, we also sell, we sell like chassis packages as well to other builders, smaller shops and builders, as well as like, we have a number of customers, that want to just like you say, tinker on the thing themselves. They've got their own Bronco. They have it in the garage. They don't want to have to worry about any like tuning, like you're talking about, or any of the modules, CAN bus, anything like that. They just want something that they can put their body on, put their interior in and mess around with. We try and offer that too, right? But you're 100% right, Bill. It's like, we're not for everybody. But what's really cool is, certainly since I started, I've been doing this my whole career, almost 10 years now. It used to be that this whole thing was kind of like faux pas,
Oh,
messing around.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, car has to be numbers matching, has to have the original engine in it. If it's not Concord. I don't want to hear about it, right? And it's devaluing the product. Now, more recent auction results, especially some of this stuff going through Christie's and things, like people are actually looking for this sort of product, and that's where they want to spend the money. And it's because they want to drive the cars at the end of the day. They want to use them. They want to have fun with them. They want to be able to beat on them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's also a few bad actors out there. Like you said, there's some shops that are unreliable. They're in over their head. They can't, they don't have the cash
We've
or the
all had a shop
resources.
closed down when our cars were there.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
all been.
Or they end up doing some things that they're not very familiar with, like again, like the whole registration process. So now they're cutting up VIN numbers and things like that, and using salvage titles and not doing the right paperwork on it. That's kind of the scary part of it is because that's the one thing. It's like it's difficult to like sort of dig into and do the research on, because you're hiring a shop, you're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you expect a lot of that to be sort of taken care of, in the process, and it's not, because there's a lot of shops that are great fabricators, but not so good on the paperwork,
Right.
you know. Uh, all right, let's just take a quick break, and then I want to get into a little bit of the build process and classic recreation. So, quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and one of the things I was looking at the website, which I thought was super impressive, is again, we're talking about this company and how it's grown and turned into a turnkey operation, but along with that is the sort of the size and scale of what it is. Like you guys, I know the website says 135,000 square feet, but I think you're like closer to 150,000 square feet now, right?
That's right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And this isn't five people working on in a hot rod shop. This is, 100 plus people.
Yeah, we're at about 160, 170 employees right now. I mean, that's obviously across the whole business, right? So there's direct staff, there's the production guys that are putting the vehicles together, and then of course we have all of the ancillary support staff. So sales, marketing, finance department. We have engineering. We do a lot of engineering here as well. So we have a dedicated engineering department. We fab a lot of our stuff, make things. So there's those guys too. But yeah, it's a full blown. If you walk in here, and you both, I'd love to host you and show you around at some point, but it kind of looks like a mini assembly line, a mini OEM production facility. There's no robots. It's everybody's doing it by hand, but that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, there's no robots yet.
I don't know. I don't know if there ever will be. We've talked. Listen, we talked about getting painters is hard, right? If you've
Yeah.
ever been in this industry, getting good painters for this sort of level is hard. We've talked about, could you go to having booths like an OEM where they drive in and they paint the car on a robot and then it comes out. But then kind of still kills a little bit of the nuance of what we do. You know,
Yeah.
we don't want to completely ruin it. So we have like an apprenticeship program for stuff like that. So yeah, no robots right now, other than like we have a big 5-axis CNC machine that we make all of our billet components on, things like that.
Yeah, so one of the other issues, and this has come up many times with us over the years, we've talked to different vocational schools, we've talked to different programs, and talked to guys like Hennessy that has his own school because he can't get enough employees, so he has to train them. What's your process of bringing in people? You know, got 100 and 60, 170 people there. Uh, where are they all coming from? Are you
Yeah,
training them?
and we're in Pensacola, which is beautiful for spring break and going to the beach, but it isn't necessarily the automotive hub of the US, right? So yeah, so we train 9 times out of 10 people are being trained. They're not coming to us from like a really dedicated experience background. That's changed a little bit with the acquisition of Classic Recreations, and we can talk more about that in a bit. But those cars are a little bit different. But it's normally around just somebody's mentality and at least some experience technically just working or building things. Doesn't even necessarily need to be cars. So we have for every one of our models we have like a full build manual. They're hundreds of pages long. They all have pictures in them every step of the way. It's obviously a proprietary process, and that couples with we've got our own ERP, our own computer system that runs with production. So if you guys were techs here, if you were working, let's say in station 5, which is our electrical station where we do all the wiring looms and stuff, when you start your week in station as that tech, you literally have every day's jobs step by step, stage by stage that you sign off and you need to do. And if you get stuck on a job, obviously there's about 3 4 months of training before you're actually let loose on a customer car. But if you get stuck on that job, you can at any time just relate back to a build manual, which in the case of an electrician shows you exactly where you need to plumb things in and what you need to wire up. And that's all the way through the process. So that, again, that's how it's scalable, is because when you do come to like find new staff or train people, instead of having to like find really experienced people, you just need people with being honest, just like a brain between their ears. We could, if us three got together and we had the kit of components, especially with your guys' experience, right? We could build a car with what we've got here. We wouldn't need to go and like work anything out. We could just follow the system.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Bill would do the wiring. That's his favorite part.
Yeah.
No, no, thank you.
That is a hard pass on that one. Hard
Hard
pass
pass.
on that one. Even on the Cobra, which is a very simple car, it turns out it's not so
Yeah, you would
simple.
think so. We
You
got a
would think
battery
so. It's
run right
not. So let's talk about Classic Recreations. It's a company that I was familiar with from years and years ago. A friend of mine, became a friend. He's a great guy, he's a builder. He was the founder of that company. And then you guys have acquired Classic Recreations. So let's just step back a little bit. Tell us what Classic Recreations is and how it's different than Velocity. How does it fit into that family?
Yeah, so Classic is a company that has always specialized in building more cars, specifically Mustang products. And they were operating, and now under our ownership, still operating under a Shelby license. So, there was a time where they were building licensed Eleanor cars, then Shelby cars, GT500 specifically. They also have, and we still have the license for Cobra product as well. But basically, one of the few shops around the country that has that sort of a license and that sort of reputation to build those vehicles. So that's what the company still does today. The main thing that and we can talk about the acquisition in a minute, but the main thing that we liked about this was that we offer 67, 68 fastback Mustangs now.
Yeah.
But this product is much more and where we want to go with it is much more of a kind of performance driving focused product rather than like even our Mustangs right now. They've got a Coyote, they're 460 horsepower. They do have a road shop spec chassis underneath them, but the buyer of that is going to drive it around on a weekend. They're not going to take it to the track. They're just going to want to drive it on the road. With Classic, it was our opportunity to say, actually, if we want to appeal to supercar buyers, but that they don't want to go and buy Italian cars, what's the play there? And Classic was the right brand fit for that, especially with the carbon fiber GT500. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that body and when that was announced and that was debuted. I think it was on tour for a few places. It came out over here to Galpin Ford, and but you're right. It's a bit of a different customer, and when you get into the carbon fiber one, there is a significant price difference.
Yeah.
It's not an inexpensive car. Are the classic recreation cars on chassis now? I mean, when it started, nobody was really doing chassis, so
Yeah,
there
so
wasn't like
we
a roadster shop chassis you'd get.
Right. So it's a great question. So we thought originally we intended to just stay with a rotor shop chassis, but those guys had already the old ownership had already kind of worked with Detroit Speed a little bit to work out some kits. And in our testing, once we started getting the products here, we found that for this application, the Detroit Speed kits were actually probably a slightly better kit. So that's not a full chassis underneath the vehicle. But you can read about on the website, we've got various stages, the end stage being, fully electronic, adjustable suspension. But yeah, so they're not full chassis cars, but that's for a reason. We're trying to make, at some point they might go back to it. The goal is over the next couple of years, basically to really get our velocities kind of brain power behind this thing, and then actually go and make these, get some track time down. I mean, I want to fly one out to Germany. I want to do a ring lap, a ring time of the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
Want to go do some actual tracks, get some drivers, and go and like put some numbers out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you were saying, your vehicles with all the Coyote swaps, they're turnkey Coyote swaps for 80 horsepower, whatever they are now, 460, 480. These, 550 to 900 horsepower that are supercharged. They got Whipples. It's a little bit different. And as we scroll through some of the images of this is the Carbon GT500. But also, like, interiors are a little different. Things are a little bit different. This is, I think, on the classic recreation stuff, you're leaning a little bit more into the Shelby license
Mhm.
and sort of capitalizing on that and using some of that branding, which is because you're licensing it, you're paying that fee. Why hide it?
Yeah, yeah, and I think like so when we went to the company, the reason the acquisition happened is the company actually went bankrupt. So just we can, I mean, we'd have to talk about that in detail, but just like we talked about the challenges of building custom cars for the first half an hour of the podcast, right? They were up against some challenges, and part of I think that was because they did have so many options. And so one thing that I wanted to do really quickly was streamline still from a velocity perspective what we were going to offer. So yeah, you'll see that there are different horsepower options, but it's a Whipple all the way across until if you go up to the third stage, then you get into like a Wagner built engine, stuff like that. They're more specific. But we didn't want to have like this myriad of 50 different body types and body styles, all these different moldings and bits of trim and things like that. We just wanted to still standardize it a little bit. However, they are definitely more customizable than a Velocity Mustang, and that comes down to the stripe patterns, the stripe colors, the interior stuff. We still want to make sure that, we're representing the Shelby brand correctly, and that's, I mean, you pay for that license, right? So you want to make sure you do that. But also, my job, one of my jobs was after this acquisition happened, there was 50, 60 customers that had cars in process. So I had to make all those phone calls telling them what was going on and what was happening. And what I learned really quickly, which we kind of already knew, but I think we were all internally slightly surprised by, is just really how passionate all of these customers were around Shelby and around the story of the cars and everything. And so it was a really in-depth process of understanding, okay, like, why do you want this stripe pattern? Why do you want this color? Some of them have translucent, carbon stripes. Some of them don't, and all of these people had like, this is the vision. And so we wanted to make sure we retained a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. Are is there a plan to bring classic recreations in-house in Florida?
It's already done.
It's done.
Yes, that
Yeah.
yeah, that was the first thing we did. Yeah, so they were in Texas. So that after Jason started the company, who he sold the company. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but he sold the company to another couple of guys. They ran it for a little while, and then we acquired it. So it moved from Oklahoma to Texas, and then after the acquisition, it moved from Texas to here because we were already set up doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
The thing that we did have to get to, coming back to the previous comment I made about staff, was instead of, we're not trying to run these down our assembly lines, they are still much more hand-built cars. When you're paying this much money, again, it's kind of a slightly different level of product. So we set up a dedicated area in our shop here, and then we've got dedicated techs. So you either work on Velocity products or you work for Classic. There's no intermingling. Yeah.
Right. But now, like, your guys assembling wiring harnesses, they can share that, right? You have CNC machines, you can share that. You have painters, they can share that. There's definitely some overlap that could be available, at least at the very least, the training process that we were talking about, bringing in people, bringing in employees and teaching them to wire and paint and fabricate and assemble. You have all of that under one roof, and that can work
Yeah.
on both product lines.
Yeah, and we had like we had there was a number of things. There's a couple cars that were after we did the deal that were almost already ready to go home. And but they weren't running right. And so one of the benefits that we have our own tuning team here. We have a dyno in house, whereas those guys were having to kind of work, externally. We were able to just throw them on the dyno, put them through our process and get the tune right. So that's definitely like you're talking about the shared resource and shared learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different product though, and that's the thing. We learned that really early on with even our Mustangs, even a Velocity Mustang. The guy buying the Mustang is different to the guy buying the Bronco, and so our Mustang tolerances are different to our Bronco tolerances because it's a car, it's a full body vehicle. You want the inside to feel slightly different. So took a lot of that too into the CR cars, and just trying to work on making sure that they're right. When you're paying over 500,000. I know. Listen, I'm a mere mortal. People often ask me what car do I drive. I don't drive one of these cars, right? I've got some cool cars, but I don't drive a $250,000 Bronco. Whatever happens, they're all expensive, so the quality has got to be right. But there still is a big difference between 250 and 500, right? And so again, we're just trying to make sure we recognize that.
One of the things that we've talked about here recently with guys from Bring a Trailer and stuff is 80s, 90s cars, even now 2000s cars. They're going up in value. They're getting desirable at auctions. I brought a Fox body Mustang to SEMA around 2016, and when I was building that, I was reaching out to companies like Detroit Speed and like that, and a lot of the companies are going, listen, we like that market. We grew up with those cars, but nobody's ready to spend $6,000, $8,000 on a front suspension and another 5,000 on a rear suspension. They're like, the market is just not there. These are $2,500 vehicles that nobody wants to spend $10,000 on just suspension. And then the next thing and the next thing. Fast forward to to now, and Camaro, IROCs, and Mustangs, and then you guys show up at SEMA with not just a Fox body Mustang, but a new product in your catalog. You're going to be doing these turnkey, ready to go Fox Mustangs. Tell us about this. Tell us about this car. You guys did a great job on it. I saw the one that was there. It was fantastic. The black car. It looked
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, it was like the exact reason that some of the other cars are becoming more popular. We have to when we think about when we're going to launch a signature series model. It's always a risk, right? That's 100% number one. I think a lot of people think we've got it all 100% figured out before we launch something. There is always when we decide to do something, a moment around a table where we all go, and I won't curse, but we all go, "Are we doing this? Oh, like, oh, okay, we're going to take this risk and we're going to do it, right?" So the Fox was definitely one of those moments. It was like, is this going to work, or are people literally going to think we're crazy? One of the things that was good was Stuart, the owner of our company. He has a personal affiliation with the Fox, the Notch in particular, just loves the car, owned one when he was younger. So there was a little bit of, okay, well, even if if we would build this and it doesn't work out, well, Stuart can still, have a car and enjoy a car, and it will have a customer, right? He'll buy it, right? So that's what we started with. But then when we launched at SEMA, we realized, hey, actually there is probably more of a market to this than we thought. We didn't know. We had none on the build order for this year, for 26, before we launched the car. We're now building 10, and 6 of them are already sold. And I think we'd underestimated just how many people of that age demographic now are coming into, they've had success, they've sold their business, whatever, and this is the car that they want. So that's kind of how it started. It's definitely different to, obviously not just in year and look, but it's definitely a different product to what the other vehicles that we offer. Obviously, it's a later model vehicle, so the interior, when we get the donor, there's more to it. That it's even from factory, it's more put together. And we didn't want to. My favorite thing on that car is the interior. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it and see it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys did a great job on it. And it was it's tough to like I can see what you're doing on the interior and there's a tough decision that you make because you you have to look at it and go, are we going to do something custom? Are we going to change the dash? Are we going to change sort of the feel of it? Even the steering wheel and the airbag, which is big. It's like, what do you do? And then what you guys ended up doing was just doing a nice, tasteful, modern interpretation of the Fox interior. Everything in here is touched, but in a subtle way where it just looks like the build quality is better, the materials are better, the ergonomics are slightly better, just like what you did on the center console. And so you just kind of fixed everything, right? You went from an inexpensive Ford assembly line from the 80s and 90s to what if we did it the right way?
yeah, that was 100% the ethos. And I think, like, if you look at our Street Series Fastback product, when you open the door on a Street Series Fastback built by Velocity, it don't look anything like a 67, 68 Fastback. I mean, it's just not even close to what it originally was. Whereas with these cars, it was more, they're in more recent memory. Definitely this idea of like if Ford built it, not the right way, but just in a different way. If it was double or triple the price from, Ford at the time, how would you do it? But we really wanted to make sure that we paid respect to some of those original design ergonomics. And you're right, it's things that were originally plastic and now billet. They may even look like plastic because we powder coated them black, but then when you touch them and feel them, they're stronger, they have more resistance to them, whatever. It's those sort of things. I love that. Obviously, now we'll build some for customers, and customers can choose a lot of stuff on them. But the seat pattern on that black car in particular, just how nice it was. It's a more modern style racing seat, but it still looks right in that
Yeah.
car. So that was definitely it. The thing I'm most excited about though is, and you guys are gonna roll your eyes at this for sure, because I'm the only English person here, but obviously the notch is like the enthusiast car. I look at the GT and we're building a couple of GTs. I'm really excited about the GT because for me as a European person, the GT has like more aggressive lines and it just has a little bit more flair to it. So those are on option too. And I can't wait
Yeah.
to see the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to do. So you guys got this great lineup of cars and trucks, mostly Ford and Chevy, and then the Scout. Is there you got your sights set on anything else? We looking at Dodge,
We
Mopar?
no Dodge or Mopar right now, probably not. No. In terms of, like I said, we have to be really careful about how like quickly we move because it's not as you can imagine, it's not an easy process to actually go and set a lineup and work out, yeah, how we're going to build cars. So probably not that. We have to make sure the market can stand it. We did launch earlier. We tend to try and think about things that like are nice additions to what we already offer, and we also poll our customer base. So we got tons of people demanding for a four-door truck. We don't have any four-door products right now. Last year we launched what we call the F350, which is basically a crew cab Denside truck. We've
Yeah.
already sold like 10 of those, but that was because the customers were saying that's what we want. So we launched those. Honestly, the next like brand mark that we'll probably go after is probably Jeep. Fits in the American lineup. We want to do a Wagoneer or some variant thereof, more of a family wagon. But like we bought one, a really clean one from Barrett Jackson like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the problem is the trim. Like if you ever looked at one of those cars in detail, the amount of little bits and fidgets and widgets on the trim of that car is just insane. So you have to wait for the aftermarket to be able to support it for us to engineer the parts to build them at scale. Yeah, that's the 350.
Yeah, looking at the big four-door truck lifted and,
Yep.
a long bed, I guess, too, right? Yeah. That
Yeah,
thing's
we're
cool.
offering it in both long and short, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a cool piece. So Jeep, get into Jeep as well. Yeah, and then when you get outside of the American vehicles, I mean, do you take a look at anything like Land Cruiser or, because again, it's like you're looking at what the market is and where they're going. And when early Mustangs, even donor cars got too expensive, then people were started looking at 80s cars, 90s cars, Camaros as well, and some of the best hot rod builders out there are looking at it, like you don't expect Troy Trepanier to go, I'm gonna do a whatever, a 90, 91 IROC, but he's doing it.
It's
You know?
starting to become a thing for sure. Yeah, I think it it really depends on what the customer base wants. And then for Velocity as a brand, it's clearly seeped in like American history and American automotive. So like that we wouldn't do anything non-American probably. We have done FJ product before. We've done Toyota product before. We have done a Camaro before. Like one-off cars. The problem with the FJ stuff is just getting that version of earlier Land Cruiser to drive nicely with how high up it sits, and then the short wheelbase is tricky. So if we were going to do something like that, it would probably be a later series. But we've listened for people often ask like, what's the market that I see as like the hottest for this next step? And without a doubt, it's the JDM market, in my opinion. The fact that a lot of these vehicles are becoming importable now. If you look at recent auction, like literally just last week on Bring a Trailer, there was like, there was a GTR. I think there was a nice like Supra. There was like three or four really
Hmm.
clean icon cars that just broke records or were close to breaking records again. And I think that's probably if we were going to do something not as Velocity but as like another brand, it would be something there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's an interesting way to go because I think there's still some white space there. I mean, we definitely have people doing Porsches and they're crushing it. They're phenomenal. Gunther Works, Singer, like there's just and by the way, they've leveled up this whole game. Like companies like that have also it it's good to see companies like that and with Velocity because it shines the light on all of these companies like you guys that have put together and invested into a facility to offer turnkey cars like this with that structure, with warranties and support. Uh, but it starts with companies that can do good work and have good cars and have that process go well, and then have those cars. It's a cherry on top of the cake if those cars are valuable later after sale, right? Is in resale, are they valuable? Do they still pull money? And that's what everybody's kind of chasing after is somebody buys my Velocity Bronco 5 years from now, what does that get at Barrett Jackson? That's just the truth. Is just like you want it to do as well as can be, and the only way it's going to do that is if you build a quality vehicle, because at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for at those auctions. They're either looking for a deal of a lifetime, or they're looking for the best vehicle that makes sense. That they don't have to fuss around with. So, all right, how many vehicles are you guys building a year now?
This year we'll probably build about 140, which is a crazy number to say out loud, but yeah, something in that realm, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, you're turning out, this isn't, hey, we're going to build a car this year or, a car over 3 years. We're building 10 a month. We're building, you know, it's
Yeah,
not
the
insignificant. So,
the Bronco line here in about so we have one line one, which is the original production line, which is just Broncos because that's our still our most popular product. Here in about 3 or 4 weeks, that will go to two Broncos a week. Which, if you think about the logistics of like just the parts to have two fully finished Broncos come off a line a week, it makes me stay up at night. It's not like easy,
yeah.
but yeah, that's where we'll go. A big part of that is having parts and stuff, and
Yeah,
we
but it's
buy.
Yeah.
that chosen route that you've taken by having the inventory that you have on hand that makes that palatable and makes it to where you control it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the company's growth, we didn't talk about that too much, but the company's growth happened pretty aggressively through COVID because Stuart had made the kind of smart decision to buy parts ahead of time. And so was one of the few people that now, American versus import cars, a little bit different. Trust me, in the UK, I couldn't bloody breathe outside, whereas here in Florida, I think they were shut down for one day and woohoo, let's go, right? So it was a little
Florida's
bit
different,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like he had all the parts here ready to go. So everybody had, people weren't traveling, they were bored, they had money to spend, so there was cars. But you're absolutely right, Bill. It's you can't we don't start anything if we don't know we got all the parts here. Because the moment you don't have a part, you can't cycle the line, everything goes wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
Dependability, whether it's delivery or whether it's afterwards, is huge. And it seems like you guys have a lot of control over the things that are extremely important to have control over, to have not only a successful company, but to be able to do it in a streamlined manner, and most importantly, in a streamlined time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything, and then we'll wrap up, but is there anything in the process of building these vehicles, something high volume like your Bronco, where uh, you guys had to just sit down and go, we need to be able to fabricate this, make this part from scratch in-house because everything out there is junk or everything out like there's just nothing else available out there anymore. And I know there's things like the chassis working with a company like Roadster Shop. Their business is turning out high volume, really, really good chassis. So to have a partner like that, that's like buying a hood or a vintage air AC system. And you go, you know what, we should just get chassis from those guys. And then you guys decide what
Yeah.
level that means. Are you getting a rolling chassis or are you just getting the frame and then you do the rest? But other than like a maybe the chassis, is there anything that where you guys were like, it's the weirdest little thing. We just can't get a rear quarter panel or a door handle or a bumper, and we just gotta make them all in house. Is there anything like that?
So I'll give you, that's such a good question. I'll give you a couple of examples. One really quickly is we do electric windows on all of our vehicles, and a lot of the vehicles don't have switches. They have the window regulator or the handle, the old crank handle that is made to look original, but you don't crank it, you push up and down. And when we first started getting that kit, there was already kits there, that control kits that you could do stuff like that with, but
Yeah.
the truth is a lot of that stuff comes from China and it would fail, right? So we were like, well, this isn't good. Also, functionality wise, I used to get so frustrated because in a Bronco in Florida, you're going to drive with the windows down. Most of the time, there's no top on the vehicle, right? So there's no sense in just having the windows up. So you put the window down, but then if you're driving alone, I go out for a drive on a Sunday or something, you have to reach all the way over. So we went and we re-engineered that whole system in-house so that you can control the passenger side from the driver's side. You can do a sequence of movements to like adjust things. That would be like a consumer-facing thing that comes to mind.
Yeah,
The
that's good.
best example, though, that I can give you is something that nobody will ever see, and you only learn this having done, five, 600 Broncos and having that many cars, trucks out there, like long term. Because a lot of the problems that people don't realize happen like not even in the first 3 months or even in the first year or 2 years of ownership. It's like 4 or 5 years into ownership. So we've got some customers now that have 40, 50,000 miles on their Broncos, which I know for a new truck or car is nothing, but for a product like this is a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things we found is, I've told this story a couple times before, but we use an OEM door latch, a new but OEM door latch on a Bronco. And inside that, there's like a retaining pin that allows, basically, as you actuate the button, there's a rod that then presses the control mechanism inside to just open the latch. Well, that rod from factory on in that original mechanism is not reinforced by anything around it, right? So if you imagine over time, not in the first year, but if you open and close the door and use that latch 10,000 times or 20,000 times, the pin, the end of that rod bends. No one knows that, and we wouldn't have known it if we hadn't built so many and have built them for so long. But over time, it bends, and then after a certain amount of time, it bends so much that the door completely fails. The latch fails entirely. You can't open it. The customer rings you and says, "I can't open my door. I'm frustrated." Right? So just that alone, we ended up re-engineering, and we make it in-house and fit it in a continue like a guide piece just to keep that rod flush so it doesn't bend at the end. That's one idea. We have a complete custom serpentine system to make the engine fit better and all the accessory drives to fit better. It's things like that that a lot of the customers don't see, but they do realize long term that we engineer. We don't do anything crazy like we don't make our own wheels. We do make our own billet components, but we don't make anything
Yeah.
crazy big in fabrication. It's the little nuanced details that we work on.
But and that's super smart because you're right. That's one of those things what you're talking about on the door can only come from a a a company that can make hundreds of these vehicles that are on the road for years and years and years. It's the only way you can do it.
Yeah,
Like
and I come back to Bill's point earlier, like our customer base is not the customer. There is a whole customer base that in that scenario would be like almost probably find like it a bit fun. Hey, I've got an excuse to go work on the truck all weekend. I'm going to go take the door apart and work out what's going on. That's great, and but it's not for us. For us, the person that has that problem doesn't have much time, has paid a lot of money, and is going to be frustrated by that fix. So I can promise you, if like they care more about that, our customers, than like it being like super customized and pretty. They just want them to work. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. You guys are doing some amazing stuff over there. Love to get out at some point and even tour that facility. It just looks incredible.
You
Um,
have to go out and drive some stuff. Yeah.
Uh, Tom, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for being on the show and giving us the lowdown on Velocity. Like I said, I knew about you guys for a while, and then, you know, you know me, Bill. I saw the Fox Mustang over there,
Yeah,
and I was
I know
like,
you.
who built that? But the Roadster Shop guys were always teasing it for me already because I knew they were doing the chassis. I spoke with them a while ago. We had them on the show, and then they said just wait till SEMA this year, which was a few months ago. But yeah, Bill, any final thoughts?
No, man. I mean, hey, first and foremost, again, it's awesome as a car guy that there's options like that out there. And secondly, I definitely have to look into it more because my boys from Detroit Speed are involved, and I can't tell you how in the beginning, Kyle's product was absolutely unbelievable, and to
Yeah.
see how he's grown and how he's being used in today's marketplace is awesome. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
we're
all
excited.
about who you're in business with too. You
Yeah.
know.
Uh, Guys, Velocity Restorations, that's the website, Classic Recreations as well. Follow them on social media. Go to the website, just have some fun. Click on a couple of those trucks or those cars and go through the configurator and kind of look at some of the options and things that are available. It's a fun little during the lunch break. It's a fun little way to go and entertain yourself. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week. And until then, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.